a hand moves slowly, almost as if underwater, and hesitates over the rim of a porcelain cup. Steam spirals upward, slightly clouding the air. In that tiny gesture, in that second-long indecision, resides a universe of silence. An outside noise, a passing car, a cell phone vibrating somewhere, threatens to shatter the stillness. But the pause remains. The hand doesn't touch. No words are spoken. And yet, something fundamental has been revealed. This is the dive we will take. Welcome to a glimpse of the real, the universe within you. Today, we will decipher Clarice Lispector, the unseen language of intuition. We've been taught to live by what we see, what we touch, what we measure. But there's an invisible language without verbs or nouns that manifests itself in our hesitations, in our inexplicable nausea, in the silence between words. It's the voice our being tries to send us, but which we, amidst the noise of the world, have learned to ignore. What is this hesitation in the cup trying to tell us? What if this anguish you feel, this loneliness that persists even in company, isn't a flaw, but the clue to something great? In this video, we don't promise a cure for your pain, but a translation for your soul. We'll use the lens of Clarice Lispector, the writer who transformed everyday life into a portal to her inner universe, to unravel what her own intuition whispers. And to structure this poetic journey, we'll use Jung's letters, Brené Brown's vulnerability, and the meaning of Yalom and Frankel. This is a journey for those who understand that the true search begins when we stop rushing and dare to listen to what's deepest within us. If you feel this restlessness, if you sense there's something to be deciphered in your own life, this video is the first step to finding the key. Your pain isn't a mistake. It's a clue. Perhaps you felt this way, in a room full of people with voices and laughter, and yet an internal loneliness persists. A dull echo. It's as if your life is filled with external noise, notifications, demands, other people's opinions, while your inner voice, the only one that truly matters, remains just an unheard whisper. You've probably felt this anguish of not being heard, of living in disagreement with something that, deep down, you know is your truth. This is the loneliness described by psychiatrist Irvin Yalom. Not the loneliness of space, but that of the soul, the loneliness that dwells within us, even when we are connected. Clarice Lispector had a precise understanding of this dissonance. For her, the difference between the person who acts and the being who feels is not just a problem, but the starting point for discovery. She depicts this gap in characters who appear whole on the outside, but who, on the inside, are wounded and fragmented in search of meaning. The great promise of this video is to guide you through this chasm, to find and translate the language of your own intuition, integrating the scattered parts of yourself. There's an existential flaw that traps us. It's a subtle tendency, an unconscious gesture of nullifying our own freedom out of fear. Jean-Paul Sartre called it bad faith. The denial of our own shadow, of what bothers and frightens us within ourselves, transforms internal signals into guilt, shame, or a silence that crushes us. And that's the trap. How many times have you fallen into it? Write in the comments. 1, 2, or 3, or maybe it's impossible to count. Throughout our conversation, we'll uncover this flaw so you can finally hear what your soul wants to tell you. Most of us are taught to pursue lofty goals, the promotion, the dream trip, the new car, the life the Instagram photo seems to demand. We live with a sense of urgency, chasing an endpoint that we believe will bring the meaning we so desperately desire. The common mistake is to believe that meaning lies in destiny, in a spectacular revelation, or in a grand heroic act. Our negative mirror may be that successful character, surrounded by achievements and admirers, but who, when they lay their head on the pillow, feels a cold emptiness. They have everything the world values, except what their soul needs. This is the key dissonance, the distance between what they have and what they are. Where is the meaning? Then, Viktor Frankl and Irvin Yalom show us that it is not a grand revelation, but something that resides in mindful attention to the trivial. What kind of meaning can we find in a traffic jam, in the silence of a room, or in the sound of a spoon scraping the bottom of a cup? The truth, a shattering of expectations, is that slowing down and turning our gaze to the ordinary is the most revolutionary act we can commit. Clarice Lispector was clear that meaning hides in the cracks of everyday life. She saw an entire sky in the reflection of a pot lid, and in the life of an ordinary woman, Maccabea, a universe of tragedies and silent epiphanies. What happens when you look inside yourself, and all you see is the echo of others' expectations? What do you feel when you realize your life is a race against time, but you don't know where you're going? To begin disarming this trap, look at your own hand. Just look. Observe the lines, the texture of the skin, and the curve of the nails. For 30 seconds, as if you'd never seen it before. Then, write down the first sensation or image that arises, without judging or explaining. Intuition isn't a mystical whim, nor a voice gently guiding you to instant happiness. In fact, it's one of the oldest functions of our psyche, and its language is often pain. The first step to deciphering the invisible language of intuition, it's about validating this experience, the pain of feeling like you might be making a mistake by listening to yourself, and the discomfort when your intuition contradicts social opinion. Your intuition may tell you to go somewhere or do something that doesn't make sense to anyone around you. And this dissonance is painful. It's the conflict between what you know and what your world demands. This is where Jung comes in as a silent guide. For him, intuition is a legitimate psychological function, manifested through images, sensations, and synchronicities. It is not an esoteric gift, but a sign from the unconscious, a compass pointing to what has not yet become conscious. When Clarice describes G.H.'s epiphany, she is viscerally translating a Jungian process of delving deeper into the unconscious, of making room for a part of the soul that longs to be seen. If intuition is that drawer that, when opened, reveals an entire room, as Clarice would say, Jung's analytical psychology gives us the tools to interpret the contents we find within. The great breakthrough in expectations is realizing that intuition is rarely a gentle guide. Sometimes it appears as a disorder, a sudden shame, or an unexplained symptom. Listening to it can often involve confronting rejected parts of ourselves. The shame that silences your intuition, for example, is a sign that something in your shadow, that part of you that has been denied, is trying to emerge and be integrated. If all of this has made sense so far, if you feel like there's a drawer to be opened in your life, sign up, because now comes the part that almost no one tells you. To begin opening this drawer, let's try a simple but revealing practice: 3-minute writing. Grab a sheet of paper and a pen, without thinking, without editing, and without stopping. Write down the first sentence that comes to mind when you touch an object in front of you. It could be a cup of coffee, a pen, your cell phone. Simply name what you feel, without explaining why. What does it evoke? What image pops into your mind? Observe the repetitions and the images that emerge from this flow. The drawer that holds the unvisited home is opening. What will you find inside? And what will you do when this drawer reveals something you'd rather keep hidden? We'll talk about this in depth later. Most people would give up at the first door that opens to their inner self. They prefer the predictable pain of external noise to the unsettling silence of what lies within. But if you're still here, it's because you're part of that select group who truly seek transformation. You understand that the true journey isn't a race to escape what bothers you, but a courageous dive into embracing what's there. Your pain isn't a flaw, but a portal. Eastern philosophy, translated by Alan Watts, teaches us to view life not as a battle, but as a flow. Suffering is not a flaw in the system, but part of the river. And wisdom is not found in fighting the current, but in learning to navigate it. Clarice Lispector lived this philosophy of the here and now, of encountering the trivial. For her, the meaning of life was not something to be found in some distant place, but something to be revealed in the intimacy of one's own being. It is at this point that the journey becomes truly profound. Jung shows us that the pain of our shadow, that which has been denied within us, is not to be avoided, but explored. What has been rejected can, in fact, be the source of new power. The shame that silences you, the insecurity that paralyzes you, the pain you hide from the world. All of this is not a matter of weakness, but of transformation. It is the raw material for your individuation, for the search for the wholeness of being. Pain becomes wisdom, and wisdom becomes the light that guides you. It's Clarice who, by writing about the cry of a dying chicken, makes us see that life, in its most extreme vulnerability, is also sacred. It's Brené Brown who shows us the courage to be vulnerable, to connect with others, and with our own truth. The darkness you explore, in the end, is where you find the material for your own light. And this light is so genuine that it illuminates not only your life, but the entire universe. If our greatest mistake is seeking the grandiose and missing the pulse of the small signs of life, our greatest epiphany can happen when we stop searching for meaning and begin to simply feel it. Frankl and Yalom teach us that purpose is not a grand revelation, but a tapestry woven with mindfulness of the trivial. Think of a pen, a glass of water, the sound of a bird outside. Have you ever stopped to look at an ordinary object as if you'd never seen it before? The rush to live according to external goals blinds us to the sacred that lies within our own grasp. And that's why we often feel empty despite our success. What would happen if you stopped for 5 minutes and looked at the pen in your hand, describing 3 sensations it evokes without judgment? The weight, the color, the shape, or the image of something it reminds you of. It's a simple exercise, but it connects you with the here and now that Alan Watts so valued. But for this connection to be genuine, we must face the most difficult obstacle, the shame that silences. As Brené Brown has shown, shame is the emotion that makes us believe we are imperfect and, therefore, unworthy of belonging. This shame that prevents us from being truly seen, from being vulnerable, is a part of our shadow that, as Jung teaches us, gathers everything that has been rejected. Have you ever hidden yourself for fear of being seen as inappropriate? Have you felt like an imposter, afraid that your pain would be exposed? Facing the shadow isn't an act of humiliation. It's an act of discovery. What has been denied within you can be transformed into a creative and energetic force. Shame can be the gateway to vulnerability, and vulnerability to connection. Which of these parts surprised you the most, and how do you plan to apply it to your life? Let me know in the comments. And if this video has already opened your eyes to something new, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Future videos will delve even deeper into this journey. The paralysis we feel in the face of freedom is not a flaw. It is the result of a burden that, deep down, frightens us. Jean-Paul Sartre shows us that freedom is heavy because it is the source of our responsibility. With so many possibilities, the right one seems unattainable, and so we nullify our own choice. The bad faith we mentioned at the beginning of this video is precisely this, the act of deceiving ourselves, pretending we are not free to choose who we are. It is the existential flaw that traps us in the cycle of anguish. And it is this flaw that Clarice Lispector reveals with the precision of a surgeon in her characters, who live life as if they were mere observers. But the great promised transformation lies not in finding meaning out there, but in creating it within. Viktor Frankl taught us that the search for meaning is not a hunt for a certain destination, but an exercise in transforming minimal choices into poetic gestures. It is the freedom to look at life with a new perspective. Clarice, with her prose, shows us that the landscape changes not because reality has changed, but because our way of looking at it has changed. And this is where paralysis is resolved. The fear of freedom dissipates when we transform it into an act of creation. So, what is the path to translating your intuition, to creating your own meaning, to living your freedom? Validate your pain. Embrace anguish and shame not as a problem, but as a sign. They are your intuition speaking in a language you haven't yet learned to decipher. Back to the trivial. Slow down and find the sacred in everyday life. The great epiphany lies in the small detail you insist on ignoring. Choose poetically. Your freedom doesn't lie in doing whatever you want, but in giving meaning and purpose to every small gesture. Look at your life and transform it into your own work of art. Most people will never apply what we've discussed here. They'll continue to seek quick answers, magic formulas, and the solution to emptiness in something external. They'll run from pain and miss the most valuable clue their soul offers. But you might be the exception. The one who, when you lay your head on the pillow, knows that life isn't a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. Remember, feeling lost is an indicator of depth, not failure. The anguish you feel, your search for meaning, is proof that there is a vast universe within you eager to be explored. The process of individuation, of becoming who you truly are, is long and is built one poetic gesture at a time. As a simple first step on this journey, when you go to bed, take a piece of paper and write just one sentence. Today, my intuition whispered. Don't try to explain, don't judge. Just write down what comes to mind. And tomorrow, repeat. You don't need more than 2 lines to begin translating the unseen language of your being. The sound of a spoon in a cup, the reflection of a face in a window. It is in these minimal moments that the entire universe can, for a second, reveal a new direction to us. The journey we begin today, with Clarice, Jung, and the great existentialists, is an invitation to observe small repetitions, to collect intimate images, and to realize that your own unseen language is learned with practice and patience. If this video touched you, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so we can continue this conversation. And if it resonated with you, comment and share it with someone who also needs a clue. After all, the greatest quest is not for the meaning of life, but for the courage to accept that life is your own creation, a story that we will continue to explore together.